How to find balance when the world is literally in flames? Well, ideally, you wouldn't have to. It would only be human to give ourselves the time and grace to deal and process with everything that's going on around us and in the world in these tumultuous years. Unfortunately, that isn't necessarily an option for a lot of us. We are still expected to show up, to do the work, put in the time. The question then remains, how are we able to find balance between the responsibilities that we hold in modern days while also honoring and finding balance considering the tumultuousness of life around us? Now, this isn't an easy time for anyone. One study found that 1/3 of US adults are experiencing feelings of depression, and that's up 8.5% since the beginning of the pandemic. This isn't an easy time for anyone, and top that up with natural disasters, war in Europe, it's not easy. There's no other way to put it. So here are some science-backed ways on how you can try and find that balance in this tumultuous life. The first main category is to limit your exposure. And by exposure, I mean exposure to all kinds of things. One very important subcategory is exposure to social media. There's a direct correlation between depression and social media in that the more minutes you spend per day on social media, the faster and more intensely you might feel depression manifesting. And we know that social media is addictive, even more so than alcohol and drugs. By limiting your exposure to social media, you're able to protect yourself, to give your mind that protective barrier that can keep you in a healthier mindset longer. Another major subcategory is limiting exposure to news. When the news cycle is coming out with a lot of negative information, it can be difficult to tear ourselves away from that. And with the constant influx of bad news, it's natural to be taken up in that. And one aspect of consuming news is that, similar to social media, it gives you that dopamine hit. Refreshing the page and seeing new news, and then you feel satisfied. You've got that dopamine and you want more of it. But one psychologist found that the ideal maximum amount of minutes spent consuming news per day is between 20 and 30 minutes. So if you can limit your exposure to news from 20 to 30 minutes, then that would be ideal. Of course, that also limits your exposure to troubling images or videos, which also gives you that mental protective barrier. Another thing you can do is seek meaning in activities. So there are some things you can control in life and others that you can't. And if, for example, your daily career isn't necessarily something that brings value to the situation at hand, you can spend the time outside of that contributing, and thus by feeling that you have value, your actions have value and that you're contributing, that also gives you an insulation of a barrier that helps you process the occurrences of what you're dealing with. So what kind of activities could those be? Well, it depends on the situation, but it could be donating to a relevant charity. It could be volunteering your time. It could be creating something and selling it and diverting the profits to support whatever the cause is. There are so many different options, and I'm sure that also in your local community, you can find ways to find meaningful activities, to take up your time, to devote your time, and find meaning in what you're doing. And lastly, but most importantly, is to seek out human contact. We need human contact, both in terms of touch, hug, or a handshake is so important to us. Equally important is our ability to process events by talking about them. Another great aspect of seeking out human connection is also to seek out laughter, because we know that laughter is so important. The dopamine, the endorphins of happiness contributes to balancing out the negativity that we might be feeling when the world is literally in flames. I know this was a heavy one, but a super important topic. We're happy to use this platform as a platform to also discuss mental health. So please comment below what you also do to find balance in tumultuous times, and also subscribe for more content like this. Until next time.